Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on another edition of Raising Vibration Radio and Journey into Consciousness. I'm one of your hosts, Reverend Raven, and the other host is just laughing at me tonight, Tammy Lucente, and I'm going to let her introduce our special guest tonight.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Tonight we have Ryan Chappell. He is a massage therapist, and we're going to hear about his journey, what he did prior to getting into massage therapy. And he also has a very unique philosophy on energy work that he'll be sharing with us tonight. Hi, Ryan. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, thank you very much. So we're going to get into your story a little bit tonight. I'm looking forward to it. Do you want to start by maybe telling us a little bit about your background prior to getting into massage therapy and what led up to that? Oh, we just lost your video. Ryan?
He may have stepped out of the studio. Let's see if we can get him back in here. We did. We must have technical difficulty going on.
I don't know. Let me try and reach him.
Okay, great.
So he should probably try to re-enter the studio, right?
Yeah, let me just remove him from the studio and he can just go back in and we'll get him back in here. It's kind of funny. We had him in. Oh, he looks like he came back in. I'm going to add him to the stream, but we still have no video or any voice for him. I wonder if he can hear us. I'm not really sure, but we've had really good video and audio up until this point. We start the show. Mercury in retrograde.
I know we've been on here for about 20, 30 minutes.
Yes, having a great conversation, and I can't wait to share him with you guys because he's got an amazing
story. I just sent him a text
story.
to see if he can hear us. I apologize, everyone. There he is.
All right, let me add him back in here.
Strange. Never seen that before in my life. My computer just randomly restarted on me.
Welcome to Mercury in retrograde.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. It's probably got a lot to do with it.
Wow.
So, as we were saying, maybe it would be really nice if you told us a little bit about what you were doing prior to getting into massage work and what led to that.
Yeah, so I was doing woodworking for 18 years, and I was in fabrication, so I was in a wood shop, and I would build custom things like reception desks and other things that people needed for the casework industry, and I enjoyed that work. You know, it was pretty satisfying to build all this cool stuff, but there was always something missing. You know, I felt like I wasn't doing what I came here to do. I always felt like I was kind of on a mission here, you know, to do something special. And the woodworking was just not, it wasn't it. You know, I just knew it wasn't it.
It wasn't the bill for the purpose in life, huh?
Yeah, and I never really knew what I wanted to do. But one day I was on vacation and I went and got a massage, and I didn't have any discomfort in my body. I just told the massage therapist, I said, I just want to experience massage therapy. You know, I've never had a massage. Just show me what it's all about.
Well, and where were you on vacation, or is location not really relevant? Or
well, I was in Emerald Isle off the coast of North Carolina, and so basically I went in and I just said, you know, I'd like to experience a massage, and so she just gave me this Hawaiian style, this lomi massage, because it was an experience, and I was asking for an experience.
Yeah.
And it really changed my perspective on everything, because this massage, it was very connected. I felt incredibly connected to the massage therapist. And so the human connection part was just not at all what I was expecting. You know, I thought it was just going to be kind of a therapeutic sort of thing where somebody's working on my body. But this was like real profound human connection, and I had never met this person before. And honestly, I felt like it was the most profound connection I'd ever experienced in my life, which was, you know, kind of hard to wrap my mind around because I truly just met this
Just met
person.
this. Hmm.
And it didn't feel like it was someone that I have some kind of past life history with or anything like that. It was just, there was a willingness and an openness with her to create that experience, and within me, and it just all lined up so that we could have that. And ever since then, I went back to woodworking for a long time after that. So years went by as a woodworker, and I never forgot that.
Hmm.
Um, and so it planted a seed in my mind of what was possible with two human beings that have just met each other. And I realized that I really wanted to participate in creating an experience for someone that was really novel and that sort of expanded their framework about what is possible, or their perspective about what is possible. And so that original experience just planted the seed for me of a completely different direction for me.
Yeah, I would say that you were successful, having had a massage from you, that you were very successful in your endeavors to create that kind of experience for others also. That's amazing. So you had that experience, and then several years you continued with woodworking. And did you start delving down a few different rabbit holes? Like, what inevitably brought you back to massage as a possible career that it is now?
What did she say?
She's talking to her son.
Oh, okay.
He thinks that the mic is on mute.
Oh, that's all right.
Sandy? Sandy? Wow, I'm so
Oh, she
sorry.
muted. That's okay.
Okay.
So you were saying, you were asking me about going
So,
back to woodworking,
yeah,
and then
and so you said for several years, and then you did go into massage therapy, but then what was that like, that several years, and how did you get into the massage therapy?
yeah, that's a great question. So even I'll go back a little bit further. So even before I was into before I got that massage, I was always into I was always very different. So I was a very quiet person,
Mhm.
not so much with my speech, but just in my way of being.
Being, yeah.
Um, and I've always been very calm. You know, even in like public speaking, it's not so difficult to just be relaxed for me in almost any situation.
Mhm.
And so I knew that my work would involve that somehow.
Mhm.
And so I started after that massage, I kind of started exploring some things. And one of the things that happened was I went to a meetup that was a meditation meetup. And it was every Wednesday, once a week. People would come up from very far away. Sometimes people would travel, 45 minutes to go to this little meditation meetup in Richmond, Virginia. There weren't many things going on like that at the time. And and so we would get together, we would meditate, and then we would have a conversation.
Mhm.
And one of the things that really got me started was that there was this person that showed up one day, and she was very outspoken about not being able to meditate. And
Mhm.
she said, my mind is racing and I can't meditate. And I thought, well, there's nothing I feel like I can tell her to help her meditate. So I decided one day, I said, well, what about if I just put my hands on you and I meditate, and maybe it'll just transfer to you through osmosis or something.
Mhm.
So I did that. And so I spent, 45 minutes just meditating with my hands on her. And she said that she didn't really feel like she meditated because her mind was still racing and going kind of like it normally does. But she said she felt profoundly safe.
Mhm.
And she said that she wanted to experience more of that, that kind of touch where it's like pure touch. without any kind of agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was doing. I was just touching her with the intention of being completely calm and still within myself, hoping that that would offer her something to help her relax. And it did, and she wanted more of it. So we started hanging out and playing with this idea of I would just touch her and she would um, enjoy that experience. And what kind of organically happened over time was I started communicating with her and learning how to sort of talk to her body. It was like I was witnessing my body communicating with her body and coming up with all these really cool moves. And I could never remember them. We would give names to these massage moves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's like, for some reason, I could never remember them. It was like I was channeling them from
Yeah,
some other realm, you know?
you just intuitively knew how to move with her.
Yeah, and that was kind of the beginning of realizing that I had some kind of innate ability to
Mm,
do massage therapy. Um, but you could say that there's this holding space component that is critical in my work,
mm-hmm.
which was also kind of discovered in that meditation group where I was putting my hands on her and just holding that space. Everything that I've done in massage therapy and energy work, that stillness has been the foundation of all of it. Just
Mm-hmm.
being able to hold that stillness, no matter what is happening, no matter how turbulent the person is that I'm working with. That's kind of when I say, when I said before that I find myself living kind of a monk lifestyle to be
Mm-hmm.
able to do massage therapy. It's because of that need to hold that stillness. It's like I really feel like I need to be able to do that no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to have been the case in all of my sessions, you know.
I have a
S-
lot of respect for the vigilance that you have for holding that space for people. I'm grateful for it. Uh, I found your massage startling in a very profoundly wonderful way. I was startled by the level of much like you describe, the level of intimacy and the sharing of energy that has nothing to do with anything inappropriate. It's just just holding that space and having that human connection, like you said, with no agenda. But I don't even think giving it words really describes what it feels like to be in that space. I've had more massages than I know in my life, and I've never experienced anything. I call it a gentle touch, what I experienced. But I know there were 3 occasions where I emotionally got choked up, and I have never experienced that before. And what came up in me was kind of interesting because I had to unpack it for a few days. But I think it's a perfect example of the different kinds of things that people could most likely experience with that kind of space being held for them. But the tears that came up on some level after several days of trying to unpack this, like I said, after was one that I could share that level of intimacy of a human touch with someone and that I had an awareness that I was blocking that in my life. That was not pleasant to acknowledge. It was like a mirror in a very safe container for me to witness that to come up. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, it absolutely makes sense.
Yeah,
And you're
yeah, and it was
definitely not
very,
alone.
very, very, yeah, and it was very, it was an experience that was very, very rich, and it was really a wonderful experience. But to get a massage and have that kind of revelation revealed to you, and it might not seem like that big of a deal, but when I tell you, I had no conscious awareness of it on that level until, so it was really interesting to me, and it was and it gave me an opportunity for growth. I mean, and healing, because I could see and receive and honor that within myself. Just thought I would share that with you.
Thank you. That's very profound, and I find that it's one of the major afflictions in
Mm,
the human experience is blocking human connection. We have all sorts of ways of blocking it, you
mm,
know. Even talking is perhaps the number one way that we
yeah.
block intimacy and connection, and we forget what it's like, because there's so much separation in this culture.
Hmm.
And so a big part of what I'm doing is that I'm operating very much outside of the culture and hopefully offering
And
a
what do you mean
different
by that?
perspective.
What do you mean by that?
Well, even just the stillness, like spending my entire day in the state of stillness. You could say that our society is sort of built on a busyness in a sense. It's like that's how everything is designed here. It's like being busy and um, running around, and some people call it the rat race.
Hmm.
And to me, it never resonated with me, even as a little kid. Um, I just I couldn't do it, and even when I was in the woodworking, I was so amazed because we would get these new projects that would be these huge projects, and people would get so freaked out about how much work there was to be done, and you know they would get so stressed, and and they would get upset with me because I wasn't stressed. And I would say, while you guys have been freaking out, I've been doing some paperwork and like getting this thing started
Hmm.
calmly. So it's like
Hmm.
I'm the only one actually
Doing
moving,
anything,
yeah,
yeah.
doing anything. So it's like I found that in this world there's so much. It's like the resistance ends up being more work than the actual thing.
There's more energy. I have been saying this for years. We're a culture where, on a lot of levels, the amount of energy that gets exerted to not do something far exceeds the
Hmm.
amount of energy that would be expended to just, in fact, do it and move
Yeah,
on. And it's just like, I don't know. I've been
yeah,
marveled at this on multiple occasions. Yeah.
yeah. So it's like I feel like I don't have the energy I'm not a very high energy person.
Hmm.
So I've gone with this method of conserving energy through not creating turbulence. So the stillness helps me to conserve energy, and so I can function as if I have a lot of energy, even though I'm not. I don't have this massive amount of energy running through me like some people do that seem to have the ability um, to move much faster than I do. I kind of feel like I'm almost like a sloth compared to some people.
Yeah,
Um,
but I find that energy interesting if you think about it. Especially in the line of work that you do, because you have a field around you, and the fact that you so diligently also are mindful of holding space for people. I think there's something to be said about holding that still energy field for yourself, and it intermingling with the people that you work with to help bring them into, I mean, because it will slow down the other energy field, it would seem to me, when they're crossing paths.
yeah, it's like creating a container
Hmm.
for the other
For it to
person that,
calm down, yeah.
yeah, it's a safe container that
Safe.
feels peaceful and calm.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's nice.
it is nice.
It's very nice. I like it very, very much. So so you got into massage therapy. You're feeling like, okay, so then what happened? You're feeling more of a connection of like, this is what I should be more going towards doing. I'm trying to
Yeah,
get us back to your story.
sure. So at first, I wanted to go to energy work because it was easier, in terms of I could take these classes and it's not, an entire year program.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it was, I went that route because I was like, well, I really want to do massage, but,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the time to do that right now. So I started taking energy work classes like Reiki, and then I took some other ones like
Mm-hmm.
um, pranic healing was an interesting one. And
Why do you say that about pranic healing?
well, pranic healing is it's kind of like almost like a scientific energy work where they kind of teach everyone a very standard system. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like teaching people how to use intention who, like, even if you don't know anything about intentions,
Mm-hmm.
the pranic healing course is kind of designed to teach people to be basically teach people how to do magic who just,
Who
you
don't
know,
realize they're practicing magic.
yeah, and they're like sort of like I think about it like in the Harry Potter movies.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the teachers, and they do the magic. They don't say the incantations. They're not waving the wand. They just do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then in the students in the classrooms, they're getting them to say these spells out loud, and they have to say it just right, and they wave the wand in a very particular way, and then the
Yeah.
magic happens.
Yeah.
And I feel like the pranic healing class is like they're actually teaching you just to do everything in a particular way. They
Yeah.
don't use words necessarily when in the energy work, but the way that they're guiding the intention through these very
Mm-hmm.
specific things, it made me realize that um, they have a very scientific way of doing it that's very standardized, whereas the Reiki classes are all over the place. Depending on your teacher, it's going to be one class from one class to another. It's like completely different experience.
Between those two modalities, what would you say is the one that most naturally resonates with you? I'm just curious. There's
Yeah,
not a right or wrong. I'm
that's a great
just
question.
curious.
Well, they're both useful frameworks is the way I would describe it.
Yeah.
And the way I see energy work, it's kind of like I see it the way I see almost everything. Each one of these things is someone's attempt to explain what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I consider them all to be frameworks. Just
Mm-hmm.
like any spiritual system or a religion, to me, these are all frameworks. And
Mm-hmm.
by looking at them as frameworks, I can sort of just take from any of them
What
useful things and then
is resonating with you? Yeah.
create my own system.
Yep.
And when I was in I will say that when I was in the pranic healing class, I had an experience, a mystical experience. And
Oh, do tell. I
I'll
love
tell.
mystical
Yeah.
experiences. Yes.
So I was in the class and I was just sitting there in one of the chairs, and they had this picture of the creator, and there's this deceased guy named Master Choa Kaksui. And I thought it was kind of funny the way they have his picture. It's kind of like they were worshiping him, which,
Yeah.
I didn't really resonate with with that part. But at one point he came to me in my imagination and he said, "By the way, Ryan, the way they're teaching it in this class is not the way I was actually doing it. I want to tell you about what I was doing." And he said, basically, I was doing everything with my imagination. And he said, what's happening in your imagination is actually happening.
Mm,
You just have to know that it's happening. And there was also this sudden realization that was really profound that came later as a result of that experience. And believe me, I'm not at this level at all, what I'm about to describe, but it's like I suddenly knew that if it was possible for me to know that water is actually a solid instead of a liquid, if I could somehow know that, then I could walk on water. And I
mm,
realized that the trouble is like being able to have that kind of dexterity
I
of
understand what you're
knowing
saying.
something
Mm-hmm.
that there's no evidence to know, it's like, wow, that's really high level.
And
Like, who's on
holding
that
it,
level?
yeah, and like just
Yeah.
sincerely holding it, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not ready for that, but I did get past this hurdle of knowing that what I'm seeing and doing in my imagination is actually happening on an energetic level.
Mm-hmm.
And once I realized that, it was sort of off to the races with a completely new form of energy work where there was essentially no limitations on what was possible because I was now working, the only limit was my imagination and my ability to sort of hold in my imagination what I was doing. And sometimes it was kind of tricky because I'm sort of seeing it in my imagination and trusting that what I'm seeing is there,
Mm-hmm.
and also seeing the effect that I'm having and holding it very steady. So that comes back again to the sort of the steadiness of the mind to with energy work, with this kind of energy work, certain things that I'm doing are that require me to be very steady. And over time, I've just kind of picked from different frameworks and developed what's possible. And I can give you an example of some of the things that happen in the studio. Um,
Okay, yeah.
okay,
Go ahead.
so the other day I had a client, and she was on the table, and I noticed that her neck wouldn't turn. Normally, in massages, people turn your head.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. Well, her neck just wouldn't turn, and she's very healthy. She's extremely capable, happy, healthy. And I said, your neck is so stiff. And she said, well, I my chiropractor says that my neck is all jacked up. And I was like, really? That's his official explanation? That's the medical diagnosis? Uh, and
Your
she
neck is all jacked up. Sorry,
and she,
Mrs. Smith.
but yeah, so she said that she had an injury, a sports injury, and she
Mm,
explained that it was years ago and her neck is healed, but now she still just can't move her neck. And her daughter makes fun of her because she moves her whole body to look at something, you
mm,
know? And so I took a look at it, I used my imagination to sort of see. And what I saw was that she had an energetic brace, kind of like a cast as a brace so that your elbow can heal
mm.
on your arm. um, we create these energetic braces sometimes, which is like it's like a program that your body follows that says, don't move this part of your body. And this thing was really hanging on, and it looked like a structure in her body. So I had learned that I can imagine sort of bathing that structure in golden light and just kind of marinating it for a while.
And
And
that's where I was gonna go. So when you were talking about holding it and holding it really still, that's what you mean. Like you're is
yeah,
that
like,
holding that energy and that thought precisely for as long as you can? Is that to literally just give it as long of an energy zap as you can for the healing that you're working on?
yeah, like giving it however long it needs,
Mm,
because sometimes I've had processes that took, 10 minutes of just that part of, using the golden light and to sort of loosen something up.
mhm.
So after bathing it for however long it seemed like it needed, then I would sort of imagine like pulling it out slowly
Mhm,
and watching it, moving out and just knowing that it's actually happening.
mhm,
And it takes a lot of practice to get to the point where you know that it's really happening. And so after pulling it out, a few minutes later, I was moving her head around, and she was really excited. And
yeah,
that was a few days ago. I can't wait to get in touch with her again and say, hey, is your neck
how's
still
it
doing well?
yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, she was a happy camper when she left, but I'm very curious to see like the
Mhm.
follow up, like did it last? Did it come back?
Mhm.
Because things like that, they can come back because
You have the memory
she
of it.
created it in the first
Mhm,
place, as a protective measure, so she could
mhm.
create it again. So I call that a structure, what she had in her body. And so this energy work, when you're working with the imagination, things become possible, like removing a structure. Um, but it's like in an energy work class in a weekend, it's unlikely that they'll teach you how you know, to do that, because
Mhm,
you're learning to use your imagination like a tool, and very deliberately, instead of, just daydreaming, where it's kind of,
mhm.
it's like it's
Yeah,
not
holding a thought
deliberate.
in your imagination and actually holding that thought is, it could almost be equated to like going to a gym and having physical workouts, becoming disciplined about holding certain thoughts. It's been my experience anyways when I tried to get really, really clear and hold thoughts. Um,
Yeah, it definitely takes practice, and it takes being steady, I guess, very steady.
and you are super, super steady. So you've
Yeah.
been that way your whole life, huh? You've been just real quiet and steady energy like that.
Yeah, I've always been that way. So it's not like I can tell you, go do this yoga class or something,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it'll snap in. It's always been. I mean, I there was a period, my mom tells me, where I was crying a lot after I was born. There was a
Uh-huh.
period where I just cried like crazy, and it was really obnoxious. Um, but then after that, I was
You
very
just
calm.
uh
Maybe I wasn't happy about being here.
So you've been in your own studio space now for how long, Ryan?
Well, I got that space while I was still in massage school in
Uh-huh.
May of 2020.
You have a
And so
Go ahead.
that's how long I've had it, since May of 2020.
And how did
So
you find that space?
it's a cool story. I knew another massage therapist, and when I went to visit her, I thought I actually helped her move out of that space. And I thought, wow, I really like this space. One day I'd like to have a space just like this. And and this was, way before I was in massage school. It was years before that, I guess, or at least a year before that. And while I was in massage school, somebody just contacted me who didn't know that massage therapist at all. There was no connection there. And they said, hey, I know you're in massage school, and there's this space available. And I just, something told me you might be interested in it. And they told me where it was. And I said, oh, wow, I know exactly what space that is. I've already been in that space, and I'm very interested. And I just knew something was telling me, like, yes, this is
Yeah,
it. This is the synchronicity coming into play of helping me out. And so I agreed to pay for that space, and get hold of it even before I was done with massage school.
that's awesome. Oh, I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it
The
was really
space
fun.
is amazing. That is really amazing.
It's a really amazing space. It's just so that people can know about it. It's on the second floor, and it has these big windows.
It's beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of like being in a tree house too, because there's this big tree right outside the window next to the
yeah.
treatment table. And um and so when you're on the table, there's this huge window, and you're like in this tree almost, because it's the second story and the tree is huge. And it's magical, and it's a big space. It's not a little
Yeah,
massage
it's
studio.
very nice. So that's a beautiful just example of how things just work out when we move in the direction of being true to ourselves and listening to the inner tempo. It's just amazing and astonishing to me all the time how things like that happen. It's just really neat. I like what you said. How cool is it that this is what I get to do for a living today? You know?
Yeah, it's really amazing. And About being true to yourself, there was something I had to do in order to really get that business to work.
And what was
Um,
that?
well, when I first started out, I was still doing some of the woodworking stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a pretty high demand industry. Um, and I was having a lot of trouble getting traction with the massage business, and I got this guidance that was like, okay, you need to go all in with the massage therapy. So I stopped doing the woodworking completely. I said, I'm not doing that anymore. No more side jobs or anything. I'm just going to do massage therapy and just go all in with this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when things started really working out, in
Mm-hmm.
my opinion. It was like I was blocking myself because
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
I felt overwhelmed with what I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to do. And it's like, yeah, I was blocking people somehow on some level from coming.
Yeah, it's like the universe doesn't know what to do with wishy-washy.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have to just choose which one. I've I find that that is 100% true. That as soon as you choose, you're going to be supported, and it's been interesting for me. The more I have come into real knowledge of that, it's harder for me to make choices. As odd as that sounds, because I know as soon as I make a choice and I'm committed to it, I will get supported, and then I'm like, "Oh, do I really wanna do?" I have literally played ping pong with that a few times in different ways that I wouldn't have thought, years ago, so anyways, so do we have any questions, Sandra D? Are you with us? Right.
I am with you, and we've had a couple of comments. There's Jess Che. Do you know her or him? Is that somebody you're
I do
familiar with?
not. No, I do not.
No,
I don't
neither
think
one of
so.
you. Let's see what they say. Can you hear me okay? Tammy,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I was trying to
Again, I can't hear
I
you.
I can hear you, Sandra.
I can't hear Ryan either, but you
Oh,
guys can
really?
hear me and I can't hear you.
Yes,
Isn't
I
that
can hear
awesome?
you.
You can't hear us?
Well,
No.
I will just read. I don't know why I can't hear you. I
I
don't have a
I
clue
hear
what's
I hear
going on. Let me
Tammy.
see if I might have
Tammy, do you hear me?
did
Hey,
something here.
I can hear
Mercury in
you.
retrograde.
Okay.
Yep, my volume's up. I don't know why I can't hear you. So you'll
Okay.
just continue talking and I'm just going to mute myself, okay?
Okay.
Okay. So, Ryan, let me see what we have here. I like it's really understanding. I'm trying to understand. So, you don't know this gentleman or woman, Jess, either?
I don't think so.
Okay. She's a woman, and her name is Jessica. I don't really see a specific question, but hello, Jessica. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm excited to hear about what happened with that young woman last week. What are some other interesting stories that you've had happen?
Wait, before you go there, I can talk now and hear.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Sandy.
You're very welcome. Were you able to read the comments to Ryan that we got so far? It's Jess says that I love this and thank you. I feel so at peace when I listen to you. And well, Ryan, it's not easy because so many people have negative in their field, but your field is so much higher, as in healing and breaking negative for others, and they start to feel what is good. I've done this for many, I know. And then, how can we become Facebook friends on here? So I would like to know more people at my energy level, and I could see with both of you the golden light of love and healing in words. So you guys got a new fan that wants to reach out with you and be. We got more comments here, but that's the Jess and Jessica. Her name's Jessica,
Jessica, yes.
and she was drawn to be here and grateful for your words. So just to let you know. So Jessica, I will put in there a link for both Tammy and for Ryan, and you can send them a friend request, okay? in the link there. Any of you listeners that want to, hook up with Tammy or Ryan or myself, you could also like our page, Raising Vibration Radio page. So, all right, back to your question, Tammy.
I was just asking Ryan if he had any more stories he wanted to share, like the woman with her neck.
Yeah, there was one along those lines. I was working on someone for a while, and like 45 minutes, I was working on these back muscles, and they just weren't giving up. They were just so tense. And then I realized, okay, this is just not working. No amount of body work is going to get this to happen, get these to relax. And then I said, well, I realized that there was some energetic structure, another one of these structures.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just worked on it. It was the same process that I described, and I pulled it out. And all of a sudden, she relaxed. And then she started, before I even had a chance to really tell her about what happened, she had recalled that in a previous relationship she was in, her partner had been mean to her about her posture. She had great posture and was even like a yoga teacher. And so she always walked around with like this regal posture.
Mm-hmm.
And her partner kind of gave her a hard time about that and made her sound like she was, like a robot or, really stiff.
Mm-hmm.
And so she somehow created this structure that caused her posture to sort of collapse,
Mm-hmm.
and her muscles were affected by that and her back. So um, in this case, it wasn't an injury, but it was actually like an adaptation to someone's insults. So she created something in her body that helped her essentially morph into someone that wouldn't be made fun of by her partner. And that was really interesting to see. One, that that's another form that these structures take, and then another that when it came out, she suddenly like realized what it was.
Yeah,
And
that's amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
that's kind of similar to what I experienced in a kind of way. I mean, I didn't have a structure. I don't think you didn't mention anything like that, but it was neat.
yeah, and that this thing about blocking connection with people, it
Mm-hmm.
really makes a lot of sense if you think about it, because when we're children, we have these experiences with adults that are so much larger than us and more powerful than us. And in that context, as children, a lot of times we want to hide or just block or do something that's not natural for us. And one of the things that I find in my practice that's just so consistently something I see that I feel like I would love to help people with is that when people are children and they have abusive adults in their life, they tend to create blocks in their energy system that makes them smaller. And this, at the time, is useful because that adult will not notice them as much and maybe won't get triggered by them as much. And so they leave them alone. This child will be left alone because they've made themselves sort of invisible, you could say, by sabotaging their own energy system or creating blocks in it. But the thing is, they keep those blocks and they get older and they become adults, and then it works the other way, because now there's no longer these adults that are just by default more powerful than them.
Mm-hmm.
There's just people around them that are their peers, but they're still making themselves small. So now, instead of successfully hiding, they've made themselves into like doormats, you could say. Instead of being grand and large and expansive, they're sort of contracted.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is something that I really would like to bring to people's attention, um, that we're doing this thing as a people where we're making ourselves small as children, and then we're not letting it go, and we're holding on to that, and it's not helping us at all.
I was wondering when you were going to chime in. I don't have any experience with that, do you?
Oh, tons and tons of experience. But let me just share this. Jessica says that, Ryan, this is not a question, but the stress and the anger people carry, do this blocking to them all. She says, and anger people carry do this blocking to them all the time. So I'm not really understanding what she meant. But then she wrote, I do have a question now. I healed my husband, but he is my husband. It does not work as if I were at home just for a little help. Has sciatica and suffers so bad at any input I can put into my healing for him.
Well, for sciatica, I can offer some advice about, the anatomy of the body, which is that with sciatica, what happens a lot of times is that the 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 muscles, the deep muscles in the glutes, like the piriformis, tend to get very tight because we're sitting a lot. And so one of the best things you can do for sciatica is to stretch out those muscles, and then they become softer. And because those muscles tend to pinch that nerve, and that's what creates so many issues for people. And also strengthening that muscle really helps. So it'd be hard for me to describe the stretches and the exercises in an audio format. But if you're in yoga, there's a stretch called the pigeon and figure four, which are really great for stretching the piriformis and the lateral rotators of the deep muscles in the glutes area. So
Is
I
that
can
where
offer that.
people that have childhood issues hold a lot of their attention too? Is in the lower extremities of the body, like lower back, the hip flexors?
That's a good question. I find that most of the time people have um, a lot of tension in their upper back and shoulders. It's like they're carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders.
Mhm.
And for some reason, the neck and shoulders and the upper back, I'd say it's like 80% of the time that's where I'm seeing most of the tension and the buildup. But there are a lot of energy workers who they know all this stuff about where in the body things are stored, and a lot of times when they're talking about that, it's like they're talking Greek to me because um, I don't really know all that stuff. You could read like these huge textbooks where they tell you about, like where grief is stored or where this is stored and that,
Mhm.
and and it just, to me, none of it really resonates. Like the idea of things being stored in a very specific location.
Mm-hmm.
In my work, I don't really find a whole lot of that. Either that or I'm just not really paying attention. I'm just seeing like, oh, there's something. I'm gonna do something about it, you know, and I'm not really paying attention, like documenting, you know, where it was and what the problem was. A lot of times I don't even know what the source of, like, why that thing was there, why the block was there.
You're just
Um,
removing it.
yeah, because it
Or
could be, yeah, the person that has it may have no idea where it came from,
Mhm.
and so I'm just removing it and moving on. And
I can see
yeah.
that where people wouldn't understand that they had a blockage somewhere, but their reactions to things would like illuminate to other people that they have blockages. Do you understand what I'm saying with that?
Oh yeah, yeah. The blockages are usually a lot easier to see in behaviors. Uh,
Mhm.
it's very hard to see your own stuff. It's really helpful to have friends that'll call you out on your stuff. I've got some of those friends.
Oh yeah, I do too. I do too. So, Jessica said thank you, and she will try to get him to do yoga, but he's a little scared that he might get hurt. And then what she was trying to say earlier, she said, "What I mean by what I said is when people feel anger or frustration, they keep it inside and carry the weight of the world at the time," which is basically what you just said. They carry it in the upper shoulders, upper back, neck area, the weight of the world. And then Barb chimed in. Hi, Barb. I love you. Emotions can be stored anywhere in the body, is what she's saying, because she practiced Reiki too. So like emotions can be stored anywhere. It can find a little niche in there. So yes, awesome.
So Ryan, what is your philosophy on energy work? You said it was different than most. So what is it?
Yeah, so I've described it a little bit already about
Removing structures, right?
yeah, and on a larger level, just the idea of basically I'll put it this way. Energy work to me is about intentions.
Mm-hmm.
So what I was describing of removing the structures. So I had that step about bathing it in golden light. So my intention was that it's like, okay, I'm intending to do this. So our intentions is like giving an instruction in a sense, like this is what I'm doing. So it's like you're defining your experience. I am bathing this structure in golden light as an example of an intention.
So what does golden light represent to you energetically when you're bathing something in golden light? For you, what is the energetic field of golden light?
Well, the that's a great question. I think that the golden light is actually something that relates to Reiki. In Reiki, there's all these different symbols for different energies, and I think that the golden light is kind of like this full spectrum that these individual energies in Reiki are sort of taken from. So the golden light is just kind of like the full spectrum of it, and I think it's something that you know you can just do it. You can just imagine, you know, sending liquid golden light. It has a liquid quality. When I see it in my imagination, it's like a liquid kind of goes in and it lubricates the thing that I'm trying to remove. But you could also just use it generally and just kind of bathe someone in it. There's also different colors of light that I like to use. But the thing that I really want to convey about energy work is that we are working with our intentions. So even if you were to say, I am embodying stillness, joy, and openness, that's energy work, because I am defining my experience out there in the universe. So energy work is so much bigger than we realize. We're all living it and we don't realize it. It's being intentional. And so we can be intentional in the context of helping someone. So basically a lot of energy work is kind of like intentionality with surgical precision, you could say. But I would really like to point to the intentionality of it, because if we can learn to become intentional, then we become energy workers. And then with practice, we will develop a lot of precision and a lot of confidence. Because if you become a Reiki master, anybody can become a Reiki master if they put some effort into it and some money into it. There may be some courses that involve a lot of time, so maybe that's too much to say, but the idea is like, even if you get the certification or whatever, if you're not being intentional and practicing and developing this knowing that what you're doing is actually creating a shift or a change or affecting the field, it's not really going anywhere, right? So my philosophy on energy work is that it's all about intention, and so much of what is being taught in energy work is really just guiding the intention. So for example, if you are using sage to smudge a room, you're taking this sage and you're waving it around, and you're putting a lot of energy into this waving it around. So let's say you spend 20 minutes waving around sage in a house. You've just spent 20 minutes focusing your intention on
On
clearing a
clearing the
space.
energy. Yep, exactly.
Right. So what's really
So
doing
is
the
it
work?
really the sage? No, I've always kind of felt that way. I mean, there's a lot of traditional reasons, and it goes back a long way, you know, with the white sages and stuff. But it's been interesting because that's a good example because I've been saging my own home for a long, long time. And I can't tell you how many times I've thought that. It's like, wow, the real
Mhm.
power here is I am literally going to every corner. I
Yeah,
am consciously clearing, watching the smoke, following the focus, right? You're
exactly.
watching the smoke with the intention of I am clearing and purifying the field here of everything. And it's pretty amazing. Just when
And
you just
it's
think of a
yeah.
simple act and following your intention while you do that. And are you present while that's another thing I find myself asking. Wait a minute, I'm doing something that for me is a little ceremonial. I'm real weird with ceremonial stuff and I mean I'm ceremonial on a daily basis, right? But it's very rare, but sometimes I'll even catch myself about 2/3 of the way through the house not being present. And it's like, oh no, wait a minute, this isn't working. The sage by itself, it's like, no, Tammy, come back, come back.
Yeah.
No, because by the time because you know I'll do the whole house, but it's funny. I think so much of the power is in the intention and directing it. So,
And it does work. Like if you think about
hmm
it, the
yeah.
sage, you're like you're burning sage. It's like, well, I'm using this. I paid money for it and everything. So it really does help you guide your intention. So I don't
Well,
want to discount
yeah,
it, you
yeah,
know?
and the ancestors for me, it's like the ancestors have been using it for forever. You know, I'm just like, okay, well, obviously it probably has a lot of properties that I'm not even aware of.
Well, one thing that I just realized too is that when you're using it, you smell it too. So
Mhm,
that's probably like activating some deep pathways in your mind about clearing energy and
mhm.
and maybe the sage does also
Yeah,
do
I'm
something,
sure on some level it does. I'm
but
not.
I would wager that in your case, you know, since I know you, your intention is probably doing the heavy lifting, you
Mhm.
know, because of how
I think
powerful
it
you
really
are.
works, though. I mean, I have a hectic house, and it's gotten more hectic in the last year, but it feels good. Complete strangers will come to my house and they just say it feels good here. I think the energy just stays clear. You're not picking up a bunch of debris energy, so to speak, or just uck, you know.
Oh yeah, your house is really cool. It's
But it
got great
feels good,
energy.
right? You can feel it, yeah. Because
Oh
you know,
yeah, it feels great.
there's a lot of thoughts that go into keeping the energy clear, and a lot of sage as well. Sandy, have we lost you again? We
Oh
have.
no, I've been
No.
doing banners across. You haven't seen what
Oh,
I've been doing?
I've read some of them come.
Look at this one. I love this one. Codependence. Just know that love is a choice. Because I said that we were love and energy, but then I had to reverberate that and say, oh, wait a minute. Now, if you're codependent, love is a choice. So,
Barb Destiny says intention is so powerful. I agree. Ultimate creation from Barb Destiny. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not used to reading on the side and trying to look at you, Ryan. Probably get
Yeah,
better at
I know
that.
what you mean. I had trouble with that too. Um,
so yeah,
yeah.
earlier when I chimed in about the emotions and the energy and all that stuff, the blockages, like man, for myself personally, I'm going through some massive clearing right now. Uh, Again, and I think what you're doing is so beautiful. The massage with the energy work to help clear those blockages. I just thank you for doing that for people
You're
and
welcome.
helping them out because
I'm
that's
so
a beautiful
excited,
thing.
Sandy. I'm going to go see Ryan Tuesday evening before coming. I
Yay!
know, I'm very excited.
I'm so happy for you.
So, Ryan, when you're working on people and you described people's necks being really, really tight in their backs and 80% of the people, and then a couple of the structures that you removed on people, and you're not really so much focused on where they're storing grief or whatever, but intuitively, besides their body with the actual massage therapy, you're intuitively feeling and transmuting things, I would imagine. Can you talk to that a
Yeah.
little bit? I would really enjoy.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff that's happening, I'm not even consciously aware is
Mhm.
going on.
Mhm.
Um, I've even had sessions where, um, you know, someone gets on the table and the energy that's coming through me is so intense that I can't really move my body. And I just tell them, hey, um, I'm just gonna have to stand here for a while, and I don't know what that is. It's like what it feels like is that there's some something out there that's benevolent, maybe some angelic forces.
Mhm.
It feels angelic to me anyway,
Mhm.
um, that are kind of using that opportunity to use my body as a conduit to get something through to this person that they need. It feels like activating someone.
Mhm.
And because of those kinds of experiences, I've realized that, there's a whole lot going on because I'm keeping my body in this space of stillness.
Mhm.
It makes it possible for it to be like a conduit.
A conduit, yeah.
Yeah, and so there is stuff going on that I'm not really aware of, and it's
You're just the vehicle it's traveling through. Yeah.
yeah, and what I think it does often do is clear people's fields, because one thing very consistently notice is that people look very bright and shiny and
Mm.
luminous after the massage. They, it's a very energizing experience for most people.
Mhm.
Um, it's either energizing or very calming. You know, it depends on what they need.
Mhm.
So some people are like ready to dance out of the studio, and some people are ready to go to sleep, and they're grateful for that. And so um, I've realized that it's like the conscious part of our awareness is kind of the tip of the iceberg,
Mhm.
and there's a whole lot going on with us
Under.
as
Yeah.
beings that we just don't know what it is. And I've even started to think that while we're sleeping, there's a lot going on. Like we're going out there and, and doing stuff, saving the world in our sleep or something. You know,
Wow.
I,
Do you want to go there into the consciousness thing? Because I don't know. When are we really awake is what I'm starting to ask. Is this it? Or is it when I'm sleeping? Or is it someplace else? It just seems like my consciousness is in various locations at various times.
hey, it probably is.
It's just going
I
all over.
wouldn't put it past us. You know,
It's crazy. Well, like you said, what's happening when we're sleeping? Yeah. What have you started to think about that?
well, um, I think that I'm holding space for a lot of people. Not just the people on the table, but just in general. I think I'm holding space for
While you're
people.
sleeping?
Yeah, and while I'm awake too,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I just feel like it's almost like I feel like I've become a radio station that people can tune into. It's like Quiet Mind Radio or something. And I've honestly, I've never even said this before. This is just like coming to me now. It's like, because I'm holding this vibration so steady all the time, um, it's become like an anchor. So my clients, if they want to, they can just tune in to that station. I'm going to try to read this one here. Oh yeah, actually I've heard of that too. People feeling more than two hands.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty fascinating. And whenever that happens, when people are feeling more than two hands, I'm not consciously aware of. I'm not trying to make that happen. It just happens.
This is interesting. I don't know how it's coming up. Can you see this, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm reading it now.
That's interesting. This is new. I've not seen the questions come up this way before.
Because I'm learning how to do this and I
I
just
think
put
it's
it up
very
there.
interesting. I'm like, wow, this is neat.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So my guess that would explain that banner is that maybe maybe she had a field that was really powerful because she was in close proximity. So maybe her field was really powerful, and her consciousness was actually doing some work that she wasn't consciously aware of. Um,
Do you float above your body, Ryan?
I don't think so. I think I used to, but now I try to be as much in my body as I can.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
Yeah.
We got one more comment I'm going to show up here.
Yeah, so this one, that comment about preparing for days ahead, um, I'm not consciously doing that, but what I do is I have sort of a routine where before someone gets there, I set some intentions about creating sacred space so that when they're in the studio, um, there won't be any kind of intrusions from people that I know or people that they know, psychic intrusions or interactions. And and that way we have this really solid container that we can work with. And I'll also do some other intention settings about getting myself into the right, a really good state for healing. Um, but I wouldn't be surprised if, on some level, my consciousness and their consciousness are collaborating.
Mhm.
It's like if we actually knew what was going on, it would probably be too much for us to handle.
Yeah, I have a funny
So,
feeling we wouldn't be able to.
yeah, I think
I
that's how it is.
I got a question. So, what have you ever felt like when a person comes in there into your studio and lays on the table, like they have some really dark energy about themselves? Do you ever feel that with a human being that's seeking out your help?
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I see these beings that are integrated in the energy system of people, and if they have, I have to make a tough call sometimes because these these beings or entities or whatever you want to call them, sometimes people have started identifying with them, and if someone is really identifying with them, it can be disruptive removing them.
Can you give us
And
an example of that, Ryan?
absolutely. So let's say somebody is extremely paranoid and they maybe they have road rage even just
Mhm.
like they're driving and maybe this is an entity that's sort of hijacking them and causing them to have this like crazy road rage. Well, if this person believes that that's who they are, like this is who I am, I have no tolerance for people on the road. At a certain point when we really start identifying with
We anchor
these
to it, yeah.
beings, yeah, it can become disruptive to us and others if somebody were to remove them. So I have learned how to remove them, but I find that it's challenging because it's not something I feel necessarily comfortable talking to people about. I don't want to freak them out
Mhm.
about, hey, you got some entities in your
Hitchhikers.
system. Yeah. Um, but also, if they do agree to it, um, I can pull them out. It might be disruptive. Uh, but the other thing is they can just invite them back in. But in that case, the golden light is very helpful for because whenever I've tried to remove them without the golden light, they just doesn't really work. But the golden light, it's like it lubricates them, and you can kind of loosen them up and then just kind of pull them out of there. But yes, there's people that have these beings, and what these beings seem to be trying to do, in my experience, is that they really have one major objective, and that is to create turbulence. So if you look at someone's energy field, um, it's like if their energy field is completely serene and calm and stable, there's no turbulence. And they're conserving energy. There's no leaking energy coming out of the field. They're just conserving it, and it just grows, and it's, you know, becomes very powerful. But if there's turbulence, if somehow they get triggered, so the word triggered is like
They
turbulence,
lose
right?
energy at that point.
Yeah, the field gets real shaky, and then they lose energy. So these beings that I see, these entities or whatever, they all seem to have that one objective, which is to create turbulence. And there's other objectives too, like there's maybe like, so, but this is kind of rare. Like you might sometimes have some that are sort of playing the person's energy system like an instrument, and this becomes more like a trade deal, which is kind of similar to people doing drugs, where that's kind of a trade deal where it's like, I feel good because I did the drugs, but then I'm going to pay for it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So some of those entities are like more advanced, and they can like make you feel good at the expense of draining your energy. So it's a sort of like I said, a trade deal.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time, what I'm seeing is that these entities are more crude than that, and and they're just trying to create turbulence, and they're depending on you to believe that's who you are. But what I really believe is the truth is that most people, who they really are, their true selves, are actually pretty calm. Like the vast majority of people are very calm, and if you're being triggered, it's 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 usually just programming, right? Like we've been trained to get freaked out about things and to get angry about things. But in some cases, in more severe cases, there are these entities that are like, you know, um, really poking people with a stick to get more of this
And what do you think the
turbulence.
objective of that is?
Well, when the turbulence happens, then the energy leaks out, and they can feed on the energy, and their friends can probably feed on it too. So it's always trying to create this. It's like a farming condition. So if you can get people to have turbulence, then you can feed on their energy. Anyone who has no turbulence at all, if their field is just completely solid, then nobody's feeding on that person. They're
Mm-hmm.
just they're a poor uh, poor crop. It's they're not playing the game, the turbulence
Exactly.
game. Yeah.
Thank you, Barb.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. Now, what do you think about do you watch, let's just see your daily routine. Do you watch any TV at all?
No.
No. So do you don't watch movies or anything?
I'll watch a movie, but it's pretty rare. Like if I watched a movie, it would probably be with a friend, like just to have that experience of watching a movie with a friend. But it's pretty rare for me to watch a movie or anything.
Uh-huh. And but are you very careful about what you watch? Like you wouldn't be watching The Conjuring, right?
I have no idea what that is.
I have no idea what that is either.
So
I keep saying if that
it's
was
actually
something,
true.
I wouldn't be watching it.
It's a true story about these two people that go out and back in the 70s and 80s, and they would do exorcisms with the Catholic Church to relieve these energies that got they got these entities attached to their into their energy field that were kind of demonic. And so I was just wondering, do you ever feed your brain those types of movies, or do you tend to stay on the upper, lighter spiritual side of things?
Yeah, I guess I tend to stay on the side of not taking in a whole lot of information in general. Um, Even when I was growing up, I felt this very strong guidance to avoid just almost avoid all information. And so even when I would go to school, and or even I was in church, I would always just kind of agree with everything, like they would tell me about how things are with spirituality and everything. And I would be like, oh, yes, this is fantastic. And then you go to, hear somebody else who might be from another religion. They tell me about it. Oh, yes, this is great. So it was always in one ear and out the other. And I feel like information for me um, has been, it's like the way I see it, it's almost like information is exalted as this ultimate thing in some parts of our society,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like it's a huge scam. That information is not really where it's at, and you can spend your whole life, you know, going through this hall of mirrors and reading the writing on the wall. You can spend 100 lifetimes doing that, and it just kind of like it's just endless. And but in some ways I really appreciate the people who engage in it, because I don't want to do it. And there's there's some necessity for it. Like, there's people inventing, like whoever invented air conditioning, I really, my hat's off to you,
You're really
um,
super happy about that, aren't
that's
you?
a great invention. Yeah. um, but for me, it's like, because of what I'm doing, it's like I'm holding space. I have to, you know once I started massage therapy and this energy work practice, when I say I started living like a monk, a big part of that is not taking in information as much as possible, because um, it's not that the information is bad, it's that I'm trying to keep my system like calm and
Clean.
still.
Eh,
Yeah, and I
Mostly
don't think a lot. Like I'll
clean.
spend, my mind is quiet pretty much all the time. And but what I found that's fascinating about that is that if somebody asks me how air conditioning works, I could tell them how it works. And if they ask me like how I know that, it's like I have no idea how I know that.
I have no idea.
So it's like when your mind is really quiet, it does seem like it makes it possible to access information that,
The information
you know
that's
what I mean?
all there.
Yeah, the information that's all there.
That
So that's part of the scam, I think, is this idea that like we
hmm
need to, like, knowledge is power and we need to collect information. That's like hoarding information, right? um
we all have access to it.
yeah, it's like I don't think we really need to do that. But I was, of course, like, I went through a phase in my life where I was learning a whole lot
Hmm
and looking at all these other frameworks and trying to build my own understanding and perspective from all of this stuff. And of course I had to learn how to speak English and all of that. Um, but at a certain point, I've kind of, for me personally, it's like, okay, now I need to just take what I've learned and be quiet, you know, so that I can do what I came here
That's
to do.
interesting. Yeah. hmm
So we've had a few more comments. Let me go back. Dennis had said something earlier. I posted it on the screen, but just to revisit what he said. These things have been disrupting humanity for eons. Gratitude, forgiveness, unconditional love, they cannot touch. And then Jessica said, "You are such a blessing." And then she writes, when you're a healer or a spiritual human, you tend to stay away from anything that's evil when it is in shows, etc. Because just like a bad person can break through and hurt you, so can at least it has been like this with me. Again, if you don't want to feed your mind what we're talking about, like you said, you're a monk. Speaking of monk, how big is your group of friends you hang around with? Because if you're a monk, how many friends do you have, right? Like, how big's your
Well,
circle?
I don't live like a Tibetan monk, you know. When
Okay.
I say a monk, I just mean that as sort of a placeholder for my mind is very quiet, you know. So I don't engage in activities like I'm not into intellectual conversations. Um, that's not like my go-to for having fun. I like hanging around people quietly, and I like just feeling energy, and I like being in groups of people where other people are talking and I can just listen, you know? That's the kind of thing I really like. So it's not so much that I'm doing the kinds of things that monks are doing. It's just that I'm being quiet like a monk, but in a modern world, you know?
That
Yeah.
is awesome. That is really cool.
Ryan, would you say that you feel as though you are living your mission, the purpose, or whatever your mission in life is now?
It feels that way. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really do feel content about really doing what I came here to do. And I've always felt so strongly um, that I came here to do something important.
Isn't that
Yeah,
interesting? You know, it's just interesting. Some people really do feel that way from very early on in life. So, um, Sand,
Yes.
hey, I just couldn't tell if I had you.
I'm
Uh,
here. I'm holding space for you both.
so, what would you say that mission is, Ryan? Beside, like, would you just
that's a
say
great
massage?
question.
Yeah, what would you say that mission is?
It's not massage. Massage
Yeah.
is just a very useful vehicle, especially right now at this stage.
Hmm.
Um, when I was growing up, I used to joke around. I had this sarcastic game I would play where I would tell people the rules of society, and I would go around and I would tell them all these rules of society, right? And it was totally sarcastic because I was making fun of the rules.
Hmm.
And what I found is that there were so many rules and they were all really ridiculous, you know? And and what all these rules basically do is they keep people from being playful. You know, you're allowed to be playful as a child, and then when you grow up, it's like you better knock it off and be serious. You know, and this is of course not true. There's plenty of playful adults, but I do remember um, the pressure. You know, stop daydreaming and do this math equation or whatever. And so there are just like there's this huge fabric of lies that make up our social structure, you know? And I think what I came here to do really is to not participate in all of that, to just function completely and utterly outside of all of that and
Hmm.
sort of be on my own. um, it's like if there's a radio station called you know, the Fabric of Lies or whatever, like, or Planet Earth radio station that people are tuning into generally. Um, it's like I came here to just not be tuned into it, but at the same time be here and broadcast my own station, or who knows, maybe I'm tuned into some other station that
Hmm.
other people are also tuned into. But I see it as like there is this kind of construct that people are buying into and identifying with, and it ever since I can remember, it never worked for me, and I was always able to see around it or see through it. And so what I'm here to do is to offer a completely different perspective, and that's really what it's all about for me, is
It's
to
refreshing.
break the spell,
Hmm.
you could say.
Oh, I like that. So, what would be the first spell you would like to break that everybody seems to be brainwashed with?
Yeah. Well,
If you could just break
yeah.
one massive spell on the whole planet.
That's such a great question. Yeah. What's the number one spell that I would like to break? Okay, let me just feel into that for a minute, because the magnitude of that question
I
is
know it's huge. I
pretty
don't.
big.
It's like pretty big. That's yeah. That was probably a little much, huh? I was
No,
trying
it's a
to
good
just
one.
feel
It's a great
into it
one.
too.
It's a really good one. Okay, I'll say this. Okay, this
Hmm.
one's a really good one. So when you allow yourself to be who you truly are,
Hmm.
you give everyone a blessing to be who they are. And for some reason, this concept seems to be hidden. And it's like there's this idea that we need to all be, we need to be something we're not. People are even asking children at a very early age, what do you want to be when you grow up? As if it's like, decide who you want to be, put yourself in a box, and stay there.
Spend the rest
You
of your
know?
life making sure you fulfill what you said you
Yeah.
were going to do when you were 5.
So I would say, I would break that spell and I would say, no, you know, figure out who you really are and be who you are. And then that
Unapologetically. Yeah.
unapologetically, yeah.
Yes.
And then you not only are you going to be in a state of allowing
Okay.
yourself to be who you are, but you're also going to give everyone else that opportunity.
Yeah, I think it really gives people more permission to be more authentically who they are. And would you say that there seems to be a rise in this? I can't see if there really is a rise in this or if it's my own rise in my own conscious awareness of it in my own life. Um,
I think right now there's a huge rise and a huge fall happening at the same time. There's like this massive move toward conformity, as well as a huge breakout from the conformity. So there's this like fork in the road, and people are choosing which way to go.
I feel as though I've just chose non-participation. And energetically, I just send the planet energy, uh, heart space energy. But I definitely know what you're talking about as far
Well, you
as
know what?
being a
That
rip going on.
you just brought something up. Maybe this would be the second spell I would break. Um, this idea that what we are doing is only relevant if it's happening in the physical world. So when you said non-participation, but you're sending energy like from your home, say in the comfort of your home,
Mhm,
that's real.
mhm.
And but there's this spell on Earth that's like, if you can't measure it and weigh it on a scale or whatever, then it's not real.
I believe those days are coming to an end, and I really believe that they're gonna happen, scientifically in my own lifetime. That they are starting to be able to quantify a lot of things compared to what they've been able to in the past. As far as our intentions
Yeah.
and stuff, I think they're actually doing boatloads of research on all of this now. It's pretty interesting, actually. I look forward to the next 30 years to see
Yeah.
what
It,
they've decided they can measure now. That's all going on the entire
yeah.
time without them measuring it. You know,
Right.
so
So
I'm glad
eventually
you
they're
can measure it now. So I guess we can say it's actually really happening.
yeah, they're gonna be able to measure Tammy in her house shifting the field.
Well, and when I say non-participation, I'm speaking largely to the rip and the divide and humanity that I seem to have an awareness that is going on. We're seeing lots of different things play out. I don't pay that close attention to it, so I don't participate in any kind of organized politics, religions, anything. I just live my life, but I do send energy to the planet and all of humanity, and I do think that that is participation, and in a way that I think there's a possibility that that can be a normal dialogue even 10, 15 years from now, and it doesn't sound like such a crazy thing. People look at me like I got 10 heads when I tell them, oh, I'm going to go in the backyard and send love to the planet and mean it and go do it. They're like, you're going to do what? But it really does work. And I think that things are changing. And COVID, I believe, is going to have a lot of people. The aftermath of that, a lot of people got faced with themselves during that time. And much like what I explained happened on the table with you, I had a realization of something that came up, and I try to examine myself, but on your table, I was able to experience something that I didn't even have awareness of. I believe the masses probably have come into a lot of awareness of things, and there's going to be a lot of shifting. And I think people are going to want to more authentically be themselves, whatever that is. And I hope we can be a catalyst to help support that. I know you are and what you're doing. So, where are we at for time? 9:30,
well,
Ryan.
oh my goodness, it just flew by, didn't it?
It's 8:30, you say?
9:30.
9:30.
Wow.
Yep.
Yes.
Wow.
So, how do you feel after doing? Is this your first radio broadcast or blog?
For me, it is, yeah.
God,
Oh, yay, what an honor we got, Ryan.
Woo! I love it.
Excellent.
I love it. I hope you'll do more, Ryan. I hope you come back later on in the near future and share your stories with us.
Sure, I had fun. This was a good time.
Yeah, good.
All right. Well, Miss Tammy, would you like to close us out for the evening?
Well, would you like to share any last thoughts with us, Ryan, before we wrap up this evening? Or
Oh no, I think that was a great show, and if I start on anything else, I'll probably,
be on a
talk
tear.
Yeah, I'll go for another 10 minutes or something.
Oh, well, Ryan, it was great having you. And thank you, everybody, for commenting tonight. Thank you, Sandy. And we look forward to seeing you all next week. We're going to be broadcasting from Tampa next week, right, Sandy?
Yes, we're going to be broadcasting from Tampa, maybe from the Mind Body Expo if I can get them to allow us to hang out in there till the end of 9:30. If not, in the hotel room. Yay! What a party!
All right. And Brian, we look forward to Ryan. I don't know why I just called you Brian. Who's Brian? Anyways, Ryan, I look forward to hearing more about your adventures with massage and energy work. We'll have to get together again real soon. I'll see you Tuesday. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.